Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderful Gaming. In today's video we're going to look at getting started with the Space Marines in Warhammer 40,000 using the Iron Hands Combat Patrol box set as a starting point. Then throughout the video we'll look to expand upon the initial box and build a starting 1000 point army up from it. The Iron Hands are a loyalist Space Marine chapter and one of the original first founding Space Marine legions created from the gene seed of their martyred Primarch Ferrus Manus. Like the other loyalist Astartes legions, the Iron Hands would later be divided up after the Horus Heresy into multiple different chapters as required by the Codex Astartes, although one chapter of the original legion remained known as the Iron Hands. Although unwavering in their faith in the Emperor of Mankind and his dream of humanity unity as embodied in the Imperium of Man, the Iron Hands also believe that human flesh is weak and easily corruptible, and strive to replace their organic bodies with more pure, bionic substitutes, thus closely emulating the faith of the Adeptus Mechanicus' cult Mechanicus. And so before we go into the video proper today, we are going to talk about the Space Marine Army Rule, the Oath of Moment, and indeed Space Marine chapters and a little bit as well. This is to give you a general overview of how the army will function. Oath of Moment is a special rule for the Space Marines, and if your army faction is Adeptus Studies and during your command phase, you select one unit in your opponent's army. This unit becomes the target of your Oath of Moment. Each time a model with this ability makes an attack that targets the Oath of Moment target, they get to reroll the hit roll. Now, in addition, if you're using a Codex Space Marines detachment and your army doesn't include one of the more specialized chapters like Black Templars, Blood Angels, Dark Angels, Deathwatch, or Space Wolves, you get to add one to the wound roll as well, so Iron Hands are a part of that bonus and get the +1 to wound there. And so before we go into the video proper today, we are going to talk about the Space Marine Army Rule, the Oath of Moment, and indeed Space Marine chapters and a little bit as well. This is to give you a general overview of how the army will function. Oath of Moment is a special rule for the Space Marines, and if your army faction is Adeptus Studies and during your command phase, you select one unit in your opponent's army. This unit becomes the target of your Oath of Moment. Each time a model with this ability makes an attack that targets the Oath of Moment target, they get to reroll the hit roll. Now, in addition, if you're using a Codex Space Marines detachment and your army doesn't include one of the more specialized chapters like Black Templars, Blood Angels, Dark Angels, Deathwatch, or Space Wolves, you get to add one to the wound roll as well, so Iron Hands are a part of that bonus and get the +1 to wound there. And so before we go into the video proper today, we are going to talk about the Space Marine Army Rule, the Oath of Moment. Today's video is sponsored by Gap Games, a fantastic miniature wargaming store in Queensland, Australia. They stock a wide variety of miniature wargames from all things Games Workshop to some of my personal favourites, Conquest, The Last Argument of Kings, and all things Modifius wargames as well. Use our affiliate code in the link below to help support both this fantastic store and the channel as well. And so, leading the initial box set of the Combat Patrol is a Tech Marine. Tech Marines are sort of the vehicle maintainers, the tech experts of the Adeptus Astartes, and they generally work nicely in concert with different sorts of vehicles within the Space Marine army. You are armed with a pretty cool Forge Bolter, which is a Strength 5 AP-1 damage 2 bolter, and you've got your Grab Pistol as well, which is an anti-vehicle pistol. The Omnicide Power Axe is pretty cool in combat, and you do get an extra attack from the server one mounted on your back as well, making it a pretty decent fighter, despite being, essentially meant for a support role. Now, you do have a few special abilities, and the first of these that's really important is a Tech Marine ability, where while you're within 3 inches of one or more vehicles, you get the Lone Operative rule, which stops you being targeted a lot of the time by your enemy's fire, so as long as you're near vehicles, you generally can't be hurt. Blessings of the Omnicide then allows you to buff up the vehicles that you'll be near, able you to regain some wounds that have been lost on those vehicles, but also give them +1 to hit. You also got a cool rule where if a vehicle actually gets destroyed nearby your Tech Marine, they increase their attack characteristic of their Omnicide Axe from 4 to 7, making them quite a powerful beast in combat when they get that buff. They're able to join a large variety of different units as well. This includes things like Desolation Squads, Intercessor Squads, and your basic squads of Devastators and Tactical Marines. But in general, they are going to want to work around vehicle units and get the most out of them, buffing them. Next, we then have the Heavy Intercessors. This is the intercessor unit that is in Gravis armor, and this gives them a toughness of 6 and does increase their wounds to 3 each. They're also armed with a heavy bolt rifle, which is an assault heavy weapon with 2 damage on it. So really good at taking on other Space Marines. AP -1 is an issue, but they do have a heavy bolter in there for the assault heavy and sustain hit 1 rule with 3 shots as standard, giving them a little bit of extra firepower. Generally, you should get enough shots through on these guys to pump out and really hurt some other Space Marines. Now you do have the unyielding in the face of the foe ability, where wireless units within range of an objective marker, each time an attack with damage characteristic of 1 is allocated to a model in this unit, you can add 1 to any armor saving throw made against that attack. So against damage 1 weapons, the unit has a 2-up save, which makes them incredibly powerful and great for holding objectives. Lastly, inside the initial box set, we're going to get 2 Fire Strike servo turrets. These can be taken in single units or can be combined into a single unit, which is what I probably will suggest based on the special rules we have. Their Sentinel Protocol special rule allows them to fire Overwatch, use the Firewatch over stratagem, and score unmodified hits with that on a 4+, rather than the regular 6/4 snapshots. They're incredibly good, as it does mean they can pack out some decent fire and provide a really big threat when you take them in units of multiple. Being able to get that Fire Overwatch stratagem going off when you've got things like your Fire Strike Lash Talon, which is a strength 10 -3 AP damage d6 +1 weapon, into your enemy, sort of makes them think about where they're going to put their armor. If you do choose to go with the autocannons, they're pretty good at taking out enemy Space Marines and light vehicles as well, so it really can create a field of fire where your opponent has to worry about what you're going to do, because they can't just move freely within that zone, knowing that you hit 50% of the time with your shots, and with some of the buffs you can get, putting things like Oath of Moment and the bonuses to wound, and indeed other bonuses you can get from various different detachments as well, can make this unit do quite a lot of heavy lifting for your army. And so, where to go next? We're going to look to bring in some more Space Marine bodies to the force, and we're going to do this in bringing some other heavy troops, giving us a really strong firepower base for the army, and that is with the Desolation Squad. Desolation Marines have the option of 1 or 2 different missile weapons, either the Super Frag or Super Crack missiles. These are very much in a similar vein to your regular frag and crack weapons that you're going to get, with the frag ones being a blast heavy weapon with d6 +1 shots going into enemy hordes. They're going to be great, and the super crack being a really powerful missile weapon to target enemy armor. Now, you do have the option to give your leader some different weapon options. You've got the Castellan Launcher and the Wenger Launcher, which are indirect fire weapons, and generally sort of feel a mid-ring role of the two. You've got Strength 7 on the Wenger Launcher, but you've got D3 extra shots from the Castellan Launcher, and all of these have indirect fire and blast as well, and we need to get some extra shots against enemies. Their special rule, targeting optics, means each time a unit remains stationary until your next movement phase, you gain ignores cover on your weapons. This can be really cool, especially when you consider you do have indirect firing weapons. Stops your enemy being able to hide from this unit and take out some of the enemies, but also stops any of their potential targets trying to sort of hug cover, trying to get any benefits from that while they're getting targeted. And so joining those Desolation Marines is going to be something that I think really works nicely with such an expensive unit when you consider at the time of recording Desolation Marines are 200 points for 5 models. An Apothecary to be able to join them is a great investment. Yes, this does increase the overall cost of the squad to around 250 points at the time of recording, but it does mean that with the Narthesium, during your command phase, you can return a destroyed model to the unit. This is really good when you've got such high value models that do pack out quite a punch, but generally aren't the most defensively sound. Gene Seed recovery on it as well means while this model's bodyguard unit is destroyed, you can roll a d6 on a 2+, you do gain a CP, so even if the Desolation Marines get taken down, you've got the benefit of potentially getting a CP back to maybe get some damage done on the enemy unit that's actually taking you down. And like I said, this unit is here because it's going to lead the Desolation Marines for us, but we do have other unit options that we can lead, things like Assault Intercessors, Hellblasters, Infernus Marines, even Stern Guard Veteran Squads and Tactical Squads as well. And what's really cool is we can actually attach this model to a unit that's already got a Captain or Chapter Master equipped to them. Moving on, we are going to look at more vehicles, because of course we have the Tech Marine in the force, so why are we not going to bring more vehicles? And the first of these we're going to look at is one of the Dreadnought variants we got in the Ballistus Dreadnought. This is a Dreadnought that is a mobile firebase. It's got toughness 10, 12 wounds, 2+ safe, all that stuff you think about and good stats from a Dreadnought. But instead of being armed with a close combat weapon, this thing has 2 main guns. You got the Ballistus missile launcher, which has frag and crack variations to deal with both hordes and enemy armor, and a Ballistus las cannon there as well, along with some storm bolters on its hull, further providing benefit to either shooting into enemy hordes or into enemy armor. This is a really decent model, and for its cost, I think it just does a lot of value for your force, especially with Ballista Strike, where each time it targets an attack that is not below half strength, you can re-roll the hit roll. So it's great for sort of placing those first strikes onto someone, weakening an enemy unit, and then you can mop them up with things like your heavy intercessors in the army as well. Lastly, we have another Dreadnought, and this time it is the Redemptor Dreadnought. This is the sort of middle class. It's not a close combat Dreadnought, it's not a pure range Dreadnought. It does a bit of both, and is really great at doing both of them as well, with some good weapon options. You've got your option of a main gun arm either being a heavy onslaught Gatling cannon, which is a 12-shot devastating wound weapon, or the macro plasma incinerator, a supercharged plasma weapon with blast that can really rip through enemy armor and enemy infantry as well with its profile. You then got the option of a underslung weapon on your fist arm, which could be either another onslaught Gatling cannon, though less shots but still devastating wounds, or a heavy flamer as well. And your turret mounted weapons on your chest can be a variety of different weapons, including Fragstorm grenade launchers or twin storm bolters as well. You've also got the Duty Eternal, which is great for keeping this model alive. Each time an attack is allocated to it, you subtract 1 from the damage of those attacks coming in. This just gives you a really solid piece that's versatile. It can go into combat, it can punch things, it can also stay at range and shoot. It's great at taking out enemy troops with that heavy sort of firepower, but also with the fact it's got a decent amount of shots, can actually target other light vehicles as well. Anything that's not toughness 10 or more, this thing is going to get some really good buffs against. But even when you consider that you can get things like Oath of Moment to help you on things you're winning on 5s, or sudden wound on 4s, you can get a lot of potential here. And so the force today we've gone for the Space Marines is the Anvil Siege Force as our detachment. This gives us the Shield of the Imperium ability, which gives heavy to all the weapons for our force. This might not sound like much, but it does mean if units stay stationary, they get +1 to hit. Now, if a weapon already has heavy, however, each time an attack is made with that weapon, the attacking model's unit remains stationary to get the heavy benefit. They get +1 to wound as well. This is really cool. Obviously, we're going to get rerolls to hit, we're going to get +1 to wound thanks to the Oath of Moment, but being able to get these additional benefits against wider ranges of our army sort of doesn't mean we have to focus on the one target with Oath of Moment. We can spread our firepower out more and still get quite an effective load from it. For characters, we then have our Apothecary and our Tech Marine, which we've made our Warlord. Battle line is 2 heavy intercessor squads with 5 models in the unit and heavy bolters in those units as well. Other infantry, we then have the Desolation Squad with 5 models in it. Super crack launchers are what we've gone for as the main weapon, with the Desolation Sergeant having a Castellan launcher and Vanguard launcher. While for vehicles, we have the Ballistus Dreadnought, a unit of 2 Firestrike servo turrets with twin Firestrike las talons, and a Redemptor Dreadnought wielding Icarus rocket pod, macro plasma incinerator, an underslung onslaught Gatling cannon, and twin Fragstorm grenade launchers to round it out. We hope that you found this video helpful in getting started with Warhammer 40,000, and that it was able to give you some ideas and inspiration to start your own force in the game. If you have any further questions, please comment down below, and while you're there, don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, and join our Discord server to check out all of our future Warhammer 40,000 content.